This is the most modern stealth jet in the world, and it can take off vertically like a drone. It's called the F-35B Lightning, and it's one of only 2 aircraft in the world that can do this. But it's not just some cool party trick. It's got more sensors than any other plane out there and can fight like an absolute demon, even in places you wouldn't believe. Welcome to my channel. The F-35B is an insane piece of kit. It's got a whole load of tech packed into its frame, which we'll get into. But let's first answer the question of what this thing actually does. Like I mentioned, it's a fighter jet, but it's a bit different from your standard fighter jets. For starters, it's meant to be stealth, meaning enemy radar won't pick it up until it's right on top of them. You see, the way normal planes work is they have big radar reflectors on them so that the radar waves bounce off them and back to the radar, telling us where they are. But stealth planes have special designs that absorb or deflect these waves away, making them hard to detect. But that's not all. The F-35 has special software called the Electro-Optical Targeting System, or EOTS, that helps its sensors see better. It's basically like giving the plane night vision goggles, except way better because it also blocks out the sun, clouds, and smoke. So you can imagine how useful this would be in a dogfight when things are all lit up with flares and missiles flying everywhere. And then there's the actual weapons on this thing. It's got room for 2 big ones under the wings, plus 4 smaller ones inside the body. They can carry everything from normal bombs to missiles that seek out targets by themselves. Plus, thanks to the EOTS, they can hit targets at night while flying through bad weather, something other planes can't do. So, what makes the F-35B the world's most modern jet? Well, that comes down to its engine. You see, the F-35 isn't just designed to be stealthy, but it's also meant to be incredibly versatile. It can take off like a normal jet, but it can also take off straight up like a drone. That's all thanks to this little thing called a vectoring thrust nozzle. Basically, instead of the engine just shooting the air out the back, this thing can change the direction the air shoots out in, allowing the plane to steer itself in any direction it wants. This is what allows the F-35B to hover like a drone and fly forwards, backwards, and sideways, which is why you see the pilots flying them like this sometimes. But this also lets the F-35 do something no other jet can do, transitioning between normal flight and vertical flight without any extra equipment. It basically uses the same engine to fly in any way, which saves weight and money and stuff. Now, the other jet that can do this is the F-22 Raptor, but that thing doesn't even have an engine. It just uses giant fans to push the air down and lift itself up. So the F-35B is the only proper jet that can do this. Now, before we go any further, if you could please click that subscribe button, it really helps the channel out a lot. Thanks. But this raises a pretty big question. If the F-35 is so good, why haven't we seen them fighting in Ukraine? Well, it turns out the reason might be a little more complicated than you think. You see, when it comes to fighting in air-to-air combat, the F-35 is pretty unmatched. It's fast, it's agile, and it's got those night vision goggles. But when it comes to fighting in air-to-ground combat, it's a different story. You see, the F-35 was designed to fight against other planes first and foremost, not against tanks and buildings and stuff. So while it can carry bombs and missiles, it's not great at using them. For example, it doesn't have a targeting computer, so it relies on the pilot to line up the shot. And then there's the weapons themselves. They're small. The biggest bomb it can carry is about half the size of a normal one, which means it can't pack a very big punch. So while it might be able to take out a few buildings, it's not going to be much use against a heavily guarded military base or a tank division. And that's why we haven't seen many of them used in Ukraine yet. There just aren't many of them. Only 5 countries have them, and they don't have very many. Now you might be thinking, come on, that's just a cop-out. You said this was the best jet in the world. How come it's not being used? Well, here's the thing. The F-35 isn't just one plane. It's actually 3 different ones. There's the F-35A, which is the normal one that flies off aircraft carriers and stuff. The F-35B, which is the vertical takeoff and landing one we've been talking about, and the F-35C, which is basically the same as the B, but with a carrier landing gear. The B and C models are the ones that are meant to be stealthy and have all those fancy sensors. But the A model is a bit different. You see, the A model was designed to replace older planes like the F-16 and the F-86, which are meant to fight against other planes. It's basically the workhorse of the F-35 family. And because of that, it doesn't have all the fancy stealth stuff. It's not as stealthy, and it doesn't have the EOT system or the fancy targeting computer. But it does have a bigger payload, which means it can carry more bombs and missiles. So it's much more suited to fighting on the ground. And that's why most of the F-35s being used in Ukraine are the A model. The F-35 has had quite a few problems since it started flying. Back in 2006, one of them crashed during a test flight, and the cause was traced back to faulty software. The pilot managed to eject safely, but this was still the most expensive aviation accident in history at a cost of over $100 million. Then in 2017, the Pentagon released a report saying that the F-35 had a lot of design flaws and was prone to a lot of technical issues. But maybe the biggest problem with the F-35 is the price. These things are super expensive, costing over $700 million each. And they're also very expensive to maintain. In fact, studies have shown that the F-35 costs more to maintain than it does to buy, and that's a big problem because most countries can't afford to buy a lot of them. Even the U.S. only has about 800 or so. The F-35B Lightning is an incredible piece of engineering. It's got a lot of problems, but it's also one of the most advanced planes ever made. It's just crazy that something this advanced actually exists. It makes you wonder what else is out there. We know the Chinese are working on their own version of the F-35, and who knows what the Russians are cooking up. Maybe we'll see some new and even more insane planes in our lifetime. So, what do you think? What's the coolest thing about the F-35? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video, be sure to check out my others. Thanks for watching. See you next time.